Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas March with your host, Joe Staszak. Of course, my co-host for going on with 9 years, Steven. Steve Kallas. How you doing, my friend?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always. You
And
sound good
you
to
as
me.
well. Did one last week from different locations. We're back in biz, covering the last days of the playoffs, which I always look forward to. I know you do too. It's the only thing after the Super Bowl. You have free agency and the draft and whatever, but then you have baseball for a long period of time. Most disappointed in how these playoffs have gone. And I'm not talking about from a biased standpoint or bipartisan rooting interest. They've been horrible. I want to see good games, good basketball, good hockey. I'll be watching the games 2-1. I'll look down, write a few things in my. I look at 6-1, like Panthers, and then I look up and like, oh, big game, almost an elimination game for blah blah blah. They lose by 42. Like I mean, what? It's been awful. I think the competition has been awful in both. I do think the best teams are going to come out of their respective the rounds. I think once Indiana took game one, I thought they'd win the series, but once they took game one in that epic flip, because that's a big two-game swing, the 14-point deficit, 9 points in under 58 seconds, that series to me was done. Even though the Knicks, big game by Cat in the fourth quarter the other night, they come back from 20 down. Again, another 20, that's the third time they've done that. Come back from 20 down, win the game, and then they played okay offensively, but I think just the Pacers are better. They're just better. Put up a buck 32. Halliburton had a triple double. I think that series is done. And the other, we'll get to the other in the West, but to me, Ant Edwards is the most overrated next one to be labeled the next one, and all he does, he can play. I mean, I've seen him ball out every game. At least try to. 2 points in the first half of a game the other night when you're down 2 games to 1. 2 points. He had Steve 2 points.
Well, he's too up and
16,
down. He's too
16
up and down, right?
2 points. I don't care what the coach's game plan is. Go in here and put up the ball. Anyway, let's start with the Knicks and the Pacers. I think that series is done. I'll never say it's over until it's over, but just the feel of it, the feel of it. Last night would have been an opportunity, and the Pacers just put up a buck 32. What are you gonna do? The Knicks gave up 132 points last year. You're not gonna win a lot of games doing that. And
Well,
Halliburton,
they've really exposed Brunson. I mean, they're looking to get switches just so he's guarding someone. He's a
sure,
great offensive player, a
he's
little
their
bit
star, and
high,
he's tiny, and he
up,
does what he can, but
but I think they're looking for him. And I think they're finding him a lot. And then suddenly there always seems what they do is they run screens, I think, more frequently and maybe better than anybody in the NBA. I do think, though, I agree with you on the series on the other three, but this series has been an incredible series with, unfortunately, to me anyway, one of and maybe the worst Nick loss in the history of their franchise. Certainly in the playoffs, this was a horrific loss that kind of set it the wrong way. And then to lose two games at home, I don't think anybody comes back to win from being down 2-0 at home. And the notion that the Knicks could beat them 4 out of 5 strikes me as ridiculous. Now they'd have to win three in a row. I hope they do, but I don't think they will. But I will say this whole Halliburton takes that three that bounces off the back of the rim and goes so high it's off the TV screen. You can't even see it.
went
Goes
so
in.
high.
He does the choke thing that Reggie Miller had done X years ago. I thought it was total Bush League when Reggie Miller did it. I'm sorry. Act like you've been there before, that kind of stuff. And for some reason, I don't know, Halliburton was what? He thought it would be a good idea to do the same thing. Now, back then it was
Spike
uh,
Lee.
Spike Lee uh, used to scream all the time at him. And so when
It was a
Reggie Miller
personal
did it,
war. It happened
yeah,
organically.
right,
He had like not, 10 points in literally 8 seconds because he had two free
right,
throws, which was amazing. So a
right.
little bit of a choke, and look, they were
And
down,
I
they were
think, and
done
I
in
think,
that
I
game, and
think you
they
said
ended up
it.
losing the series, but that
I,
was
I,
organic. Halliburton talked about his teammates wanted to do it last year when no, I thought it was awful.
it's total Bush League, and it looked like it was staged, which is what you said
Staged.
before we went on the air, which I totally agree with. But so what? That's something to be proud of. Now, in
No.
New York papers, they put them both on the back page. I think it was the Daily News. They put both guys on the back page going like this. Why are you even glorifying that in any way? shape, or form. It was just, again, it's Bush League. Show what act like you've been there before. You've hit game-winning shots before.
And he's not one that's really getting, he's not like he's a, by all indications, very nice guy. Very, I mean, they might talk a little trash, but it wasn't a heated thing with anyone. It was just like, oh, let's do that because I just thought it was lame.
Yeah, and I thought, of course, the Knicks could have won game two, and then they did win game three, and that gave people hope. But I thought it was kind of false hope because anytime, to me, you have to beat a team 4 out of 5. That's a very difficult. You got to be a super special team. I assume it's happened. I don't know if it's ever happened when you've lost your first two games on the road. I think I saw a stat where that hasn't. I mean, when you lose your first two games at home, you don't come back to win 4 out of 5
I know
because
it's happened in baseball, but I don't remember it happening in hockey, but I don't remember it happening in hoop.
right. So, oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, Joe, I want to congratulate though, because Halliburton's a great player. Don't get me wrong. And I want to congratulate him because last night he became the third player in the history of the NBA, the history
Third
of the
player in the history of the league.
30, at least 30 points, at least 10 rebounds, and at least 15 assists. Only two other guys in the history of the NBA have done that in a playoff game. Now, I'm sure you'll know one. Well, you know who both are. Uh, they're both superstars, but I'm sure you'll be able to guess one, but I don't know if you'll be able to guess both. You care to take a crack at that?
I'm thinking Paul Pierce, but I'll have to get him out of my mind. How about one? Did one go to Kansas? And the other maybe go to Cincinnati? I'm kind of feeling
One went
Cincinnati.
to Cincinnati.
Uh,
Actually, interestingly, the who went to Kansas did not. But he's playing now. He's playing in the NBA today, and he's a superstar. So you might be able to guess with that.
oh, so aside from Halliburton, he's done it. Is a guy who's playing now in the league,
He's playing now in the league,
along
and
with Oscar,
right. He's a superstar, a
and
super
he's
duper.
done. And what is it again? Halliburton did what last night? No turnovers.
30 or more points. Well, we'll get to the turnovers in a sec. 30 or more points, 10 or more rebounds, 15 or more assists. Only three players have done it in the history of the NBA.
And one of them is playing in the league with Halliburton.
Yeah, superstar.
Uh,
I would think it's your first guest.
I'm gonna go LeBron.
Jokic.
Jokic.
Guys.
I should have gotten Jokic.
Halliburton, Oscar, and Jokic. Now, of course, you knew I would go look it up because I'm like, well, Oscar only did that once. So I did look it up. And of course, because you know I'm out of my mind, on in March of 62, which I believe was his rookie year, by the way, he went 33 points, 13 rebounds, and 15 assists. Okay, so they've all done it once, right? Except what they don't say. Why don't they say this, Joe? On, let me find it now.
Turnovers.
On March 29th, 1964, so that was, a year later, Oscar won 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 18 assists. And he's got four other games where he just missed by like one assist or something. So, as far as I can tell, I look at all at Jokic's playoff games. Oscar's the only one to do it twice. Now, they've come up with the new thing lately now. Oh, no turnovers. No turnovers. With all these numbers, that's incredible. Except, yeah, but I'm like, hold it now. You think they took turnovers when Oscar played in 1964? They didn't even talk about triple doubles when Oscar played.
Uh,
So I went back to look and I couldn't find it, and there are no records. And they say now, today on Sports Center, after putting it up on the game last night, he's joined Jokic and Oscar. Um, Today they put up nobody has done it with assists. I mean, with no turnovers since 19, I think they said 1978 when they started doing turnovers. Well, I don't know if Oscar had no turnovers, but I'd be willing to bet that there was one or two of those games, including the two that he did, that he didn't have a turnover. He's Oscar.
he's Oscar. He's Oscar. They shouldn't even look at it as Oscar.
I just wanted to get that in
Now,
because
Jokic, I don't know why I didn't get Jokic. Of course, Jokic. He's the best player on the planet.
and Jokic has a bunch of those games very close to this
He
kind
doesn't
of.
turn the ball over either.
Yeah, so maybe well, they said he was the only one. So Jokic, you would know all his playoff games. You could just hit a button and find out whether he
Right.
did.
Jokic is
Apparently he
easy.
didn't. But Oscar, you don't know. So you have to say now they're putting up the stuff since 1978. Why? They probably don't want Oscar involved. We always talk about how they go since the merger or this or that. No Oscar, no Wilt. They try and wipe out the 60s like they never happened. So it's kind of funny. And the other thing I wanted to say, which we talked before, so Halliburton hit that incredible. We thought it was a three, but it really was a two. First thing I said to my son, did he double dribble? If you watch that in the slow motion, but Johnny looked at it 5 times and said, no, it looked like Bridges, who he went by. It looked like Bridges tapped the ball that made him lose control, which wouldn't be a
Right,
double.
nullified it.
But as soon as that ball hits the back of the rim, and it went so high up, it was out of the TV screen right away. And you don't even have to be an old timer to know this. This shot has been shown 1,000 times on TV. It's Don Nelson and Bill Russell's last year playing the Lakers. The ball was smacked away. I can't remember who it was, but the ball was smacked away. I think Havlicek had the ball, and somebody in the Lakers smacked the ball, and it went right to Don Nelson just above the foul line. 24-second clock was going down. He just caught it, threw it up, it hit the back of the rim, went straight up,
Went
and
up and
went
in.
out. That basket was like in the last minute or even more than a minute, but it put him up three. And in the old days, as you know, a 3-point lead, you couldn't go down and shoot a three.
Right.
And that was the key to them winning the game. It was viewed to be the miracle shot at the time. And in fact, they have this 9-part Celtics thing. I think it's on Homebox. They had a 9 1-hour thing on the Celtics. And I kept the first two. I taped the first two for my son because they have so much stuff from the 50s with Cousy and Russell into the 60s with Russell winning, 8 in a row with all his helpers, Hall of Fame helpers. But they, of course, showed that one because it was Russell's final game. And they came in fourth that year and they won the championship, of course. And then Russell retired. But that shot immediately comes to mind because, again, you don't have to be old to remember that shot because they show it all the time. Whenever they talk about Celtics heroics, Don Nelson comes to mind, who went on to become, as you know, one of the winningest coaches in the history of the NBA. So I just want to mention these things because, again, it's all about history to me. And we shouldn't forget what these guys did in an era where the scores today are starting to become, maybe because of the 3-point line, where they're shooting it so much better now than years ago. Um, they've made so many. I didn't realize this, but I saw a stat that Boston this year, 56.3% of their shots, or maybe it was 53.6%, more than half of their shots were threes this year. So when you try and compare today to way back then, when they started having 3-pointers, if the team took 5 a game, that was a lot. Larry Bird would take 4 or 5, and that was like the most in the league or something. So you got to put it all in context, I think. And the reason, give the Knicks credit, they're the first team ever to come back in the playoffs 3 times from 20 points or more and win. That's never happened before. But I wrote a little thing at Speaking of Sports where I said, well, look, when you had a 2-point game, you didn't come back from 20-point leads. That's 10 baskets. You need 11. You got to outscore. That didn't happen. You didn't have a three where you can come back. And when the 3-point started, 1979, 1980, nobody took 10 threes in a game. No team took.
No.
What were the
Well, they do
Celtics?
now.
What were the Celtics? They were 10 for 25. And I mean,
They were 25 or 100 in the first 2 games, and then they started hitting over 50%.
right. So what? So that couldn't have happened not only before the 3-point line, but in the 80s and the 90s into the 2000s. It wasn't
It's a
crazy.
new thing. It's like, well, if we're going to take a shot, might as well make it a three.
Right. So now it's crazy. I'll get to OKC briefly, but I want to go back first to the game 7 of the Nuggets and OKC, which I give the Nuggets a good chance to win because they have so much experience, and OKC is the youngest team in the league. Well, OKC beats them 125 to 93. Again, was never a game. You could see almost Jokic's anger, and then after the game, he was like, "Well, these things happen," and he's going home to. Is he from Serbia or wherever he goes? He's a big harness racing guy. I don't know if you knew that, but he's
Did
got his own stable of harness horses where he lives. It's
his
pretty
own
cool.
track.
But
Yeah.
they made a big deal out of this guy Edelman. We talked about Mike Malone. I'm biased because of his dad, but he's Mike Malone is a tough old timer, and Edelman strikes me as more of the players' coach. I don't know if they were. I saw the Perkins guy on ESPN say, "Oh, they seem more relaxed under him." They won those last 3 games,
Please.
including being Sacramento in the first one. I don't even know what the other two were, but. Interim coach, is he going to be the head coach? Do they like playing for him? If you're a player's coach, which means you do whatever you want, fellas. But the Denver Nuggets in this playoff series, in the whole playoff that they were in, they got beat by 30 points more than three times. And that's the first time in the history of the NBA that that's happened.
That's a problem, man.
So, right. So, is that including a game seven, by the way, to
I think
go
game seven, you get beat by 30. Really? I mean, come
to
on.
go to the conference finals. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they're going to hire him, maybe they're not. Mike Malone's doing work on ESPN. He's pretty good. He might be like a lot of other guys, and he's going to get paid a fortune next year. Maybe take a year off and work on TV, and then pick a job that you want. But I think he'll get another job. Don't forget, it's funny. It's sad. He won 2 years ago. He won the whole thing. It seems like 10 years ago now.
It does, doesn't it?
And they got blown out. Look, they played well during the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. And I really thought they could win game seven. It wasn't a game.
I like to see like new teams once in a while without the old guard and um, no, I won't say dynasty, but like the Celtics have been there, been there, been there, and then they won. Okay, they're gone, but now there's four new teams, and Pacers haven't won in forever. And of course, the Knicks, that's a great story. Then you have OKC, and then you have Minnesota. So I kind of curious to see who comes out, but no one's really been. These games are like 42 or like five, and then okay, now they won by 37. Oh well, it was close. And the next one, it's like you don't know what to pick. I'm sorry, but Edwards, and I said this before he had 40 in game three the other night. I said, to me, it's diminishing returns. You've anointed him the next one. I know he's young, and I know that he didn't anoint himself the next one. But if he's going to be a baby Jordan, forget about. I know he heard he played the playbook and the coach, whatever he designed and called the other night to it fairly well and whatever. One shot in the first half of it's not an elimination game, but they lost and it became an elimination game. He had 2 points in the first half of a game. He's the guy. He is the guy. If he's your guy and the guy, and I've seen him explode, he did it the night before. 16 points really in one of these games. I'm sorry. To me, he's hit or miss. He's hot or cold and he's up or down. And I can't anoint him in that crew. Not that my opinion means anything, but I need to see a guy who really, if you're going to go down swinging, put up 30 shots.
Yeah, well, it was this with pointing. He was 5 for 13 after the game. He still, I think he tried to say, I did so many other things.
He did. He said, I kind of went with the game plan. I didn't think I had a bad game. He didn't have a bad game. He
But
just didn't
but
have an over.
Edwards has 16 and worse. Randall had five because Randall is another up and downer. I thought he was a very
Randall
good
gave
player.
nothing.
And they both had five turnovers. So when your two top scorers have 10 turnovers, and they combine for 21 points between them,
Right.
and that's after they beat OKC by 42.
That's what I
And again,
mean.
it's one of those games you're talking about. They beat
Right.
OKC by 42, and then they lose to OKC at home, which again to me ends the series. These series 3-1, 3-1. I mean, they're all over. I know we're going to get to the NHL in a minute,
And let
but
me I just wanted to say one thing about
mhm.
OKC.
Yeah.
Um, because before the game 2 nights ago, David Silver came out. Wait, David Silver, Adam Silver. Look at me mixing and matching my commissioners. So Adam Silver comes out. They put the trophy up for MVP. And Shea Alexander's going to get it. I think that's tremendous. It's in front of his home fans. He just warmed
Yep.
up. He has a straight face. No one's around him, like tackling him. He's not excited. Gets the award, comes over, picks it up, gives it maybe three little taps, shakes the hand, gives the commissioner a hug, puts it down, and goes right over the huddle and says, "Let's go." Not Joel Embiid at all. Not a big press conference. It last, an hour and a half on Sports Center, and everyone's like mobbing him, and then he goes out and loses to Boston. He couldn't care less. He got the award, great. He went out and he had a big night. That's it. That's what you do.
By the way, I think you should write the article. What happened to the process? Did it work? We trusted it for like
Well,
10 years. Did it work?
it's over 10 years. My first
Somebody
date,
has
my
to
last
write
wife.
that. It might as well be you, Joe. Somebody has to write that article. It's kind of been lost because we all know what the answer is, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
not so much, man. Not so much. So there we go. Two series, 3 games to one. Looking to close those out. Oak City and the Pacers. I think that's going to be an interesting finals if it goes that way. I did like the Pacers and Oak City. I, um, I'll reserve judgment, but it's going to be close. And we
so
got
you mean
hockey.
But they can't rig the game. So don't they want New York in the finals? Can't they just yeah,
Didn't they rig the lottery?
yeah, Patrick Ewing. We'll never know, although I think it was fixed, but whatever.
And Dallas gets rid of Luca and they get the number one pick. That's just
Yeah.
mind-boggling. But then you have hockey, and it looks like it might be the same two combatants last year, which is fine. They went to say 7 games, and you do have the best player in the league on one team, and almost the second best player in Leon Draisaitl. How they got those two together, and Connor McDavid, and he's starting to come on. Dallas in game one, it was another collapse. It was one of those games. Dallas is up. Dallas is down 2 goals going into the third period. Edmonton completely controlling the game in Dallas. I look up, they gave up 5 goals. What? You 6-3. That was okay. That's one of those blips. That wasn't one of those where the Knicks, give up a 14-point lead. Now they're in trouble. It's a 2-game swing. Edmonton clearly the better team in this series. Came back next night. I think it was a shutout. Last night they're holding Dallas to like 1 goal a game. It's amazing. And McDavid's really. I don't know what Dallas is thinking, leaving him alone in some of those areas where he likes to skate. He is the fastest human I've ever seen. And no, I don't believe he belongs in any conversation with 99, but he is the fastest human I've ever seen on skates, at least in my era. He just has so many, like 3 extra gears, and made it to Game 7 last year. And then you have Florida, who I'm not saying they're toying with teams, but when they want to turn it on, they're going to clamp you down, and they're probably going to win by 3 or 4 goals. And it's not going to be a game you're going to enjoy watching the tape or enjoy playing in or enjoy going to because it has all the earmarks of like the left wing lock and the trap, neutral zone trap, because that's what they do. They bottle you up when they want to play. They also have a little Celtics in them that once in a while, when they could maybe sweep, they take the night off. So they took the night off at home. Carolina won a game in this round, which they haven't won since Rod Brind'Amour, the coach, had scored a winning goal when he was playing. And he knows it
2006.
too. He was like, yeah, well, they're doing their own thing. I mean, Florida does. I mean, I was surprised how honest he was. He's like, yeah, that's Florida's just, we're scraping and clawing for our lives. That was like, they're like, yeah, whatever. They're like, going to a bar right now.
No, he's right. He's
And
right.
when they turned on again, it's going to be 3 or 4 to nothing. Just what they do. They exploded in the third period the other night in a close game. It was 2-1. They don't have a lot of superstars. They have Brahe, and I think Kachuk he's close because he scores huge goals. Like he
Right.
carries that team, he elevates that team. And they got Brad Marchand. I mean, Boston, is on the cusp and on the cusp, and they get rid of, Julian, and then Montgomery almost takes them, and they lose to Florida in the first round. Remember that a couple years ago? Florida makes it to the Cup, doesn't win, makes it to the Cup again, which is very hard to do, losing in the Cup finals, getting all the way back. They're blowing a 3-game lead, then winning it. To me, I'm not even concerned. I mean, I know some folks like the glitz and dazzle, and I get it, of the bells and whistles of Edmonton because they have McDavid and they have some. I like the teams. This is what used to happen in the East and the West back in the day. Like in the 90s, people would always like, the teams with the speed and the West Conference teams. But the East teams are ones who really would clamp down you with the Ken Danicos and the Scott Stevens and the Niedermeyers and the Marty Brodeurs. Those teams would eventually wear you down enough where defense wins titles and championships. You hold teams to 1 goal or less, 2 goals. With like Bobrovsky's been doing or Vasilevsky when Tampa made their couple cup run,
Yep.
you're in good shape, especially when you have guys who capitalize when they have opportunities to score. Again, not a lot of gifted goal scorers, but they have guys who can find the net and they play as a team and they play hard. And again, I like them cruising getting past Carolina to me shouldn't be a problem, but it's going to be an interesting finals, I think.
Yeah, well, I wanted to focus quickly on Edmonton's goalies because they've been an interesting group, and now Stuart Skinner is the guy who's starting every night. His first 3 games in these playoffs, his first 3 starts, he was 0-3, giving up 15 goals total with a
Yeah.
save percentage of 81.7%. Since then, his last 6 starts, he's 5-1. He's given up 7 goals in 6 games, and his save percentage is 95.8. Obviously, that's turned it around. And Subban, who is now an announcer, you've seen him
Why
with,
can't the Flyers sign him? Jesus, he still looks like he's great. He retired
yeah,
way too early.
So Subban said, "Look, the knock on Edmonton, the way to beat them was their goalies. But even the other guy, Picard, he has a tremendous record too now. So their goalies are playing great. And so, as Subban said, it's you got to worry about their offense, you got to worry about their defense. But you thought you could beat their goalies, and now you can't beat their goalies. He's given up one. He gave up one goal last night, shut him out the game before, and they're really on the roll. Frankly, I don't think McDavid has been McDavid. Draisaitl has 7 goals in the playoffs, and Corey Perry. 40-year-old Corey Perry, who looked to me in the past couple of playoffs that he like didn't belong, he couldn't score. He now has 6 goals in these playoffs, and he's 40 years old, Corey Perry. So I think Edmonton's going to be very interesting. Now, I think you're right; they're going to be playing the defending Stanley Cup champions. But if their goalies can play as well as Subban says, I mean, I've watched them all, and they seem to be up and down, but now they're all up, both of them. And I kind of like if it goes the way we think it's going to go, all the threes and the 3-1 in both leagues are going to win. I kind of like Edmonton in the final only because they're getting surprising goalie play. And we always talk about it, Joe. How can you win the Stanley Cup when and they're not an 8 seed or anything, don't get me wrong, but how do you win? Your goalie stands on his head. He plays great. And both of them have been playing really well, but especially Stuart Skinner. The numbers, 7 goals in 6 games, that sounds like the 1930s to me.
It's been
And
unbelievable.
and so it's very interesting. And to me, you still haven't seen McDavid's great. He's a super duper star, but he hasn't really played like McDavid. Draisaitl has his share of goals, but McDavid, if he plays like McDavid, I don't know that anybody's going to beat them. So
He still has to come on.
that'll be an interesting final. And I think in the NBA because OKC is so young that I give the Pacers a big shot to beat them too. We'll talk about it, when it happens. I know the NBA finals start June 5th, and we're doing this on a Wednesday, a little later than usual, but we'll do another one on Saturday. And, I think the finals will be interesting for both leagues. But I agree with you. Getting to the finals, some of these basketball games, especially, I go back, you heard me complain about the 7-10 games, and then they win what they win to get slaughtered by the number one seeds. It's almost like I won't call them a 16 seeds, but it's kind of like the 16 seeds when they play the one. They win one game every 48 years or something, one against 16. But I think the finals, at least, we can look to it to have all 4 series 3-1 is kind of disappointing because you want that 2-2 series that's going to go 7. And I don't think anybody's even getting to a seventh game. If it does, that'll be exciting, but it would be very unusual.
What makes anyone feel better? Yesterday was it marked the 50th anniversary of the last Flyers Stanley Cup. 50th anniversary. 50 years.
Oh boy.
So, by the way, 99 days until the Eagles in Dallas kick off on that Thursday night. So we're under 100 days. I'm counting, man. I'm
I
counting.
like the Eagles.
You like the Verge?
Yeah, but what about, hold it, just one football question. What about Saquon saying this is one of the 5 greatest teams in the history of the NFL? What do you think? A little over the top?
It's hard to quantify that. The way they ended and the talent they had and how they destroyed a team that was going for history.
That is true.
Um,
That's a good point.
again, it's like hard to, how do you put
Yeah, it's hard.
you know what I mean? It's speculation. I'll say, yeah, just because of the overwhelming talent they had and the way they finally put it together in the last 2 games and put up over 50 against Washington and just absolutely decimated. They could have kept scoring against Kansas City. Kenny Pickett, I don't know if I've ever seen a backup quarterback in a Super Bowl like be allowed to take the knee. You know what I mean? Like no big deal. But even Jalen went over to the coach and said, "Are you sure we're done?" After 40 points, he took the starter job. He goes, "Coach, are you sure we're done?" He's like, "Yeah, we're good." You sure? I'll give it to him there. It's not like him to say that, but maybe he's getting warmed up because they have Hard Knocks is doing a thing on the NFC East next year with all 4 teams towards December. I think it
Are,
comes
are the
out.
Giants still in the NFC East? Are they
I
still there?
believe they are still. Yes, they're still part of the NFC East.
I'm a Giants fan, so take it for what it's worth.
I like Dable. You know, I like Dable. I hope he gets his just due. I actually think he's a good coach. He's been saddled with not a very good team. So
Well, we
we should.
talked about Daniel Jones. Now, look, he might become a guy who now goes somewhere else and has a good career. But as we talk about for years now, it's a 5-year mistake if you pick the wrong guy.
You set yourself back a while if you make those mistakes like that. And Howie can't keep this up for long. The last four drafts, I think he should have 18 of 19 in the first three rounds who have actually played. That can't keep up. Like it's unsustainable. But there are teams though that like Dallas hasn't hardly hit on anything, and they used to be very good at drafting. They still couldn't get over the hump. Their results are always the
Yeah, but
same.
yeah, that's what Jerry Jones says. Oh, well, I drafted more Pro Bowl players than anybody else. Yeah, but that's meaningless.
He does, but it doesn't result in anything
Exactly.
because you got Dak, who's a B quarterback, and paying him $60 million. By the way, none of the quarterbacks in the top 10 now that Purdy are there have won Super Bowls.
We
Amazing.
talked about that for years. You don't have to win anymore to make 50
You
million,
don't, right? Ama
55 or
Amazing
60.
stuff. Good
Again,
stuff.
once
But we'll be
upon a
back in a few
time.
days, like you mentioned. You can follow Steve's stuff on his daily Facebook page, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas, on, like I said, on his daily Facebook forum page, and also his videos on westchestercountypost.com. Sorry, my voice is losing a little bit. You can find this podcast on YouTube and all the audio outlets. And we'll be back Saturday for another show, my friend. Good stuff. By then, maybe we'll have the final teams will have punched their ticket to the finals or final in the NHL. I don't know why they took the S off of that. It bothers me. I don't get bogged down stupid stuff. And that bothers me. It's nothing to do with it's finals. Anyway, good stuff, bro. Have a good one, man. We'll talk to you. I'll talk to you this weekend.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too, pal. Talk to you, folks. Appreciate you watching.